Greetings and salutations, this is Huge Ass. And it's time once again to look at Taboo Conspiracy's Flat Earth Truths series, which are actually Flat Earth Lies. For this 9th episode, Taboo was really lazy, and pretty ridiculous really. He relied on Daniel Pratt, of all people! Yes, you heard that right, Daniel Pratt. This Daniel Pratt. I mean, if you genuinely felt that you had a point, why would you go to the least credible person on the internet to make it for you? It's like Gandhi wanting to spread peace around the world, so he goes to Hitler for advice. Of course, Taboo Conspiracy is in no way Gandhi, but the disparity illustrated in that analogy is fitting. Daniel Pratt is probably the most despicable person I've ever encountered. As a result, I've made him persona non grata on my channel. But I'll make an exception because this is about Taboo Conspiracy more than Daniel Pratt, even though Daniel Pratt is the one giving the words in this video. On with the stupid then.
Okay, we're told the Earth rotates at 15 degrees per hour, one rotation per day. If a plane were taking off from the North Pole at a distance of 1 mile from the geographic North Pole or literal axis of rotation of Earth, that would be a 6.28 mile circumference. That circumference would cover 6.28 miles in one day, or just about a quarter of a mile per hour.
Well, that's accurate enough, I guess, but I'm not really sure where you're going with this, and I've got a feeling you need to illustrate this a bit better. So we'll see what happens.
If a plane takes off from that runway and heads south towards the equator, it must, by mathematical fact, by physics fact, somehow accelerate its angular momentum that as it was taking off from the North Pole was only just about a quarter of a mile per hour, must somehow, when it's going to land at the equator, have accelerated over 1,037 miles per hour of angular momentum.
Well, first point of dumbassery from Pratt here. I think he means angular velocity, not angular momentum. I think we're going to see quite a few concepts mixed up here. And if you mix up concepts, you're not really demonstrating an understanding of the subject that you're talking about. What a surprise for Daniel Pratt.
It has never been proven physically that planes do this. There has never been an instrumentation, reading, or measurement provided to prove that this is what airplanes do when flying from north to south towards the equator. And vice versa. A plane taking off from the equator is carrying 1,037 miles per hour angular lateral momentum, and must somehow lose over 1,000 miles per hour of that angular momentum in order for it to land safely at the North Pole, that is again only moving at a quarter of a mile per hour.
So I am truly puzzled, Danny boy. Why do you think there would be any such measurement? For a start, people flying planes aren't in the business of providing evidence to Flat Earth idiots. And secondly, even on the Flat Earth map, the Gleason's map, yes, I know you all deny that you actually have a map, but that's the one that's got to be, isn't it? The distance between the pole and the equator is the same as we say on the globe, about 10,000 kilometres. You're giving me an argument from incredulity that the plane can't change its vector towards the east by 1,000 miles an hour over 10,000 kilometres. Given most planes that are capable of flying that far would take about 13-14 hours to complete the journey, I would think there's plenty of time for the pilot to steer towards the east a little bit to avoid that issue. Of course, that point ignores the reality that the atmosphere moves with the Earth, and seeing the plane uses the atmosphere to fly, it doesn't need to impart any extra force. Even if it did need to do that, over that distance and that time, at any point, it would be a tiny amount. So have you got something more than an argument from incredulity, Danny boy? Because an argument from incredulity is no argument at all. Especially when all you have to base that incredulity on is a flawed understanding of physics and reality.
This proves the Earth is stationary.
What, are you retarded?
It proves nothing of the sort, Danny boy. An argument from incredulity doesn't prove anything, except that you really have no idea what you're talking about.
And as many NASA and other government documents proclaim, when doing flight tests, they assume a flat, stationary plane. Globe proponents will tell you this is just because it's an easier way to test things without making it complicated, and so the pilots don't have to do all the difficult math.
And here you demonstrate that you don't even understand the lies that you're trying to propagate. The claim wasn't about pilots, it's about simulators. Here on this page on mctoon.net, link in the description, mctoon goes through these alleged claims and shows what rubbish they are. It's not the pilots that have to make the difficult calculations, it's the software engineers. I know, I used to be one. These all relate to the software that's written in the simulators to simulate the missions that they train the pilots on. The pilots don't have to make the calculations. And the reason they make these assumptions is because they don't really matter when it comes to a simulation. Certainly not from the point of view of training a pilot to steer an aircraft. Maybe for navigation, but that's a completely different simulation. And all of these claims come from the 1960s and 70s, when computing power was minuscule compared to what we have today. There wasn't any need to spend a lot of effort, a lot of money, and a lot of computing power accounting for these assumptions, so they didn't. That's all there is to it. It's not a conspiracy. The fact that they've told you that they did it proves that it's not a conspiracy. Pretty dumb conspiracy if you're telling people about it all the time. But there's one thing dumber: believing the conspiracy.
I would submit to you, because there has never again been any physical proof of their mathematical claims of rotation and conservation of momentum, much less acceleration or deceleration of angular momentum that these planes carry, that it is more likely that the Earth is just flat and stationary, and that's why these government documents state this.
Well, I would submit to you that you have no idea what you're talking about. You presented zero evidence to support yourself, and I can supply proof of rotation. In fact, a flat earther did it. Bob?
If the Earth is spinning at one rotation every 24 hours, that means that every hour it has to turn 15 degrees. And if the gyroscope is mounted anywhere on Earth, it's going to drift. In today's 21st century navigation systems, they're using what's called a ring laser gyroscope. It is extremely precise. If we could simply get one of these ring laser gyroscopes, we would be able to prove once and for all that there is no rotation to the Earth. One of the people in the community actually purchased one for $20,000. But what we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15 degree per hour drift.
Thanks, Bob. Well, there's only a few more minutes left of this god-awful video. How much more can you embarrass yourself and Taboo Conspiracy?
Until someone can provide mechanical measurement of airplanes either gaining 1,000 miles per hour of angular momentum or losing it going from the equator to the North Pole 1,000 miles an hour of angular momentum. This is proof the Earth is a stationary level plane, just as the government's own documents state.
As I said before, it's not proof of anything except your incredulity, and perhaps your blatant misunderstanding of reality, as expressed in physics. If you're well-intentioned, I would just write it off as a misunderstanding and try to help you understand. But given your videos and Taboo Conspiracy's videos, you don't have good intentions. You're trying to lie to people deliberately and to deceive them into believing utter nonsense. All for a few bucks advertising revenue on YouTube, and maybe the odd t-shirt sale here and there. Daniel Pratt and Taboo Conspiracy, as I've shown in this video, are charlatans. Do not believe them. Demand that whoever tells you something gives you evidence of it, and valid evidence at that, not just something that they can twist to suit their narrative, but something that is objectively true. And how do you tell if it's objectively true? Well, humankind invented this process called science. The whole point of science is to take out all the emotion in it, the flaws that we have as human beings, so that we can, as objectively as possible, see what is actually true, and then make decisions based on that understanding of reality, because it'll be the closest thing to reality that we'll ever get. And you should apply that standard to all conspiracy theories, not just flat Earth, because some of them are downright dangerous. Certainly, people have died because they believe conspiracy theories. People like Rob Skiba and Flat Earth Fokker. Don't be like them. The corgi's warming up, so if you like this video, click the like button. It really helps me out, as does leaving a comment. And if you'd like to see more of what I do, click the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you get notified of future videos that I put out. And if you really like what I do, you can become a channel member by clicking the join button below. For $3.99 Australian a month, that means you're a part of the huge ass movement. So there's nothing left to do but cue the corgi.
You're despicable.